to another episode of the Asian Cards YouTube podcast. Today we have none other than MC Sports Cards, otherwise known as Cance. How are things going?
Hey, how are you? Doing great.
I'm doing well. Seems like it's been a good day here in Hawaii, or planet Earth in the background. How's your baby been going?
Yeah, it's good, man. I'm just busy, just nonstop, and kind of getting through each day and trying to move on to the next one.
Yeah, I always see Mike's Instagram stories, and there's like new inventory coming in and out every single day. Very impressive with like the amount of volume that he gets. So glad that you made the time to come on today.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so for those of you guys who don't know Mike, can you give a brief intro about yourself? How you got into this hobby, to how you worked your way up to where you are today.
Yep. So I'm Mike Cance, also known as MC Sports Cards. I'm out of New Hampshire. I've been in the card hobby for about 16 years now. I started in 2006, just kind of set building and opening packs and everything, and then just kind of gradually snowballed it into what it is today through going to trade shows and wheeling and dealing online and everything. So, I've 16 years, I've learned a lot and kind of met a lot of cool people, and definitely excited to talk about a lot of that today.
That's crazy, 16 years. So that's, wow, can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
How did you initially get into it?
So my younger sister got some cards at a school event or a birthday party, and didn't really want them, just gave them to me, and I started playing with them and kind of got hooked from there, and that's kind of what set it all off, and never really looked back after that.
Oh wow. How has your strategy changed throughout the years? I'd imagine 16 years ago, the card scene was like very, very different. The platforms that people use, the communication was like very, very different.
Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed from a market standpoint, as well as just me and everything. My focus back when I first started was just set building and collecting players of the teams I liked or players I liked. And, it was just kind of for fun. I was a younger kid. And then, as the years went on and the hobby got more innovative, there's more and more products that came out, more and more cards that are of value, and more people in the hobby. So, over the years, kind of got to see it grow and see some cool people come in and kind of adapted to all that.
I see. I've always been curious. Have you ever worked like a full-time job before doing cards full-time?
Yeah. So out of college, I worked for about 9 months, and then I quit to do cards. So
I see. Well, what was that process like? I'm sure a lot of people would be interested in hearing about that transition.
Yeah, I mean, it was more just wanting to try it out. Just got a degree, wanted to see what the real world was all about with working, and decided that cards were way better.
I agree. No, similar boat here. I graduated in 2017, worked 3 jobs, hated all of them. And it was just like one after the other. I was like, okay, maybe the next one will be better. Right. And eventually decided to take the plunge and do this full time. So definitely been an awesome experience for me as well.
Yeah.
So I guess for those who are curious, like, what does your typical day-to-day look like?
So every day is a little different, but it's kind of like the same bundle of tasks or events. For the business as a whole, I'll start with that. It's more like, the day starts, we have a couple of guys doing the shipping and invoicing and responding to messages, customer service on eBay and everything. And then we have listing and processing new stuff, and then the mail that just came in and all that. And it's just kind of like, whatever comes in is kind of how our day is dictated. Sometimes more people are shipping, sometimes more people are listing. Depends on what's sold or what's in. But for me, I mean, I kind of play a role of just more like doing a lot of the clerical stuff, like the bookkeeping, the inventorying. I do a lot of the buying and trading and selling and pricing, and I kind of hop in wherever I'm needed. And sometimes if I buy a really large collection, that'll be my entire week processing that. Or if it's a slower week, then I'll get to catch up on some inventory. So my day to day is never really like, an exact thing, but I guess the answer in the sentence is that it just varies on what's going on.
I see. How big is your team right now on the consignment side of things?
So it's myself and 3 others right now, and in the near future, we'll probably move that to about 4 or 5 others, as we grow and as things take off. But right now it's just us 4, and all 4 of us are consistently slammed and can't catch a break, which is good.
Yeah, I used to sell on eBay using my own account too, and like it was a lot of work, like just moving stuff back and forth. As like a single person, like trying to pack everything, print labels.
Yeah.
So I can imagine with consignment, it's like probably even more. Plus, like the customer service side of things, where everyone's like, "Oh, when is my card going to come up? When is it going to get paid for?" Stuff like that.
Yeah, but luckily we've been getting items up for people within the same or next day in almost all cases. So that's been something that's really helped us stand out and really helped us grow pretty quick.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like personally, like I bought from you guys before. Last year, I bought a Kobe 2019 in-flight card. The one where he's dunking. And I got it very quickly through the mail. Communication was very, very good and very strong there. On the consignment side of things, like what are your goals in the medium term, let's say in like 2022, for your business or selling on eBay?
Yeah, really just kind of grow the customer base, grow the sales numbers, all while keeping that same service that we offer with the quick turnarounds and, kind of the hands-on customer service. So, it is very tricky to just kind of put a goal out there because the market changes so much and you never know what's going to be what, but just want to keep that like organic growth going. We started just friends and word of mouth, and we're still kind of growing through that without doing a lot of like advertising online and ads and everything. So, I think the goal for 2022 is just to keep doing what we're doing and just keep growing, keep keeping our customers happy, and see where that takes us. And if we find that we're understaffed or we find that we need more items or something like that, then we'll evaluate. But I think to answer your question, it's just really tough to put a concrete goal.
I see. So it's just more of like keeping things running smoothly as the way they are.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, that's interesting. Cool. I'm actually really curious about hearing more of like the trading side of your business. So like, I trade cards on a day-to-day basis, not nearly in the volume that you do. Every time I look at your Instagram post, there's like, ton of cards on the table. My question that I'm just personally curious about is how do you get that volume?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a buildup over the years. Just consistency and building your network, and you kind of get to a point where if you move one card, just a large card, say a $20,000 card, and you trade it and you get 5 $4,000 cards, chances are of those 5 cards, you're going to get people who want to trade you for one of those. And then it just like kind of creates this never ending loop of stuff in, stuff out. And, that's kind of where we're at with the volume, and why we're able to post what we post on a daily or weekly basis is because a lot of that is just leading into our last post is going to lead into our next post next week or the week after, because a lot of that stuff will get turned over into new cards. So it's just kind of like that never ending cycle and the wheeling and dealing and that.
I see. So in terms of wheeling and dealing, does your team help you with that? Or is it mainly you that's involved in the negotiations and the pricing?
It's probably like 90% me. My team's really busy with the consignment side, but there are instances where, if someone offers me like a bulk lot or something, I'll kind of pass it off and have somebody research it and see what a good price to buy it is, or if their price is fair or too high or anything. But I'd say most of the time, if not all of the time, it's me handling that.
I see. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting to hear. It's like when I get a lot of like inbound messages when I post something, I like sometimes like I'm too lazy to like even look up the comps, because I'm like, there's just it's just overwhelming at times. So like personally, like have you ever thought about like perhaps like hiring someone to like help you handle that side of the business as well, like you do with consignment?
Yeah, yeah, it's something I definitely want to do. It's just really tough because to do a role like that, you really need to know about the market, about cards, and about what's good, what's bad, and how to execute a deal. And I feel like finding the perfect person for that who's so good at it would probably be doing it for themselves. So that's kind of the problem that I have. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to have some assistance, but at the end of the day, I do like kind of having that like final say, or leaving it up to my decision on if I'm going to buy or execute a trade.
I see. Yeah, having that level of control is definitely good, especially if it's like your own business. You get to call the shots.
Yeah,
You don't have like someone else having talk over someone else, right? It's your risk, and you kind of like reap the
yeah,
rewards of that as well.
definitely.
So, what does your deal making process look like? Typically, like say like someone comes in saying like, oh, I have these cards, want to work out a deal. Can you walk a little bit through about kind of like what goes on in your mind throughout that process? What are the types of things you look at, and like from like start to finish?
Yeah. So just to be clear, you're asking about like the process of acquiring new cards, or
Yes, like how do you think about that?
yeah. So a lot of times it starts with someone I know, or a message on Instagram of they're offering me the cards, or someone locally will come in and just bring some cards, and then I just try to keep it really easy, and I don't really like playing that game of like, this one did $5, this did that. I like to kind of keep it as like a whole, and I find that to really help out. But yeah, basically people come in, or people offer me stuff online, and just kind of glance at it and can spitball a lot of values, or do a little research, and from there either get a price or make an offer, and pretty much it. I mean, I really try to keep it simple and as minimal back and forth as possible, and I think having that mindset has really helped me get
Do
a
you
lot of.
do you comp every card that you get offered, or do you kind of like approximate like, oh, like an MJ Auto on card is around 10 to
Yeah,
14K?
it really depends. I mean, if it's like a smaller lot with a handful of higher end rare cards, I'm gonna do a lot of research on it just to see where I'm at. But if it's like a bulk lot, there's a lot of $50, $100, a couple $100 cards and such. Like, no, a lot of it I can just kind of say like, all right, any Joe Montana auto is safely worth X, or any Tom Brady auto is safely worth X. So I kind of use that mentality in the bulk deals.
I see. Are there any cards that you just simply won't buy?
Not really. I mean, for like a price point, I try to avoid some of the 10 and under, or like a bulk amount of it, just because we have a lot of stuff. But there's not really anything I won't buy, um, unless it's like complete garbage.
I see. Yeah, the bulk printed Volvo prisms that just popped out at the end,
Yeah,
those types of
yeah,
things. uh, I see. I see. Yeah, I was just curious about that because, like, from my perspective, like, since I'm only one person, I can only handle so many incoming requests at once. So, like, I try to filter by value.
yeah,
I'm just curious to see what it's like with someone, with more manpower, um,
yeah,
to help you sell stuff. No, that's really interesting. If someone comes to you and like offers you, say for example, a price that is like 1.5x 2x comps, like will you even bother with the negotiation, or you will just be like, we're too far on price,
It
probably not
it
worth the time?
really comes down to the card. Um, if it's a card that I really don't care to own, and it was more like, yeah, I would buy it for X, and we're too far off, I would just pass. But if it was like a really nice Jordan or LeBron or Brady or something, um, then I'd be more willing to kind of work and figure it out. But in my experience, if someone's 1.5 comps for an unjustified reason, like say a player like Luca just won the series, like you could probably get away with asking a little over comps from a week ago. But if they're that high with no justification, then I usually just kind of pass.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Like sometimes like the back and forth is worth
Yeah,
it. Sometimes you're just too far off to even arrive at a middle ground.
yeah, exactly.
What do you think people would do more often when they try to negotiate a deal with you or try to sell you something.
What would I like to, or what would
Yeah,
I
like
like?
what do you like to see other people do? That you
Yeah,
think is
I
like an
like when
underrated
people
tactic.
I like when people kind of come like with the correct information, or like with the understanding that, I'm not going to overpay, and I'm just looking to get something done fairly. So that's always like a really good starting point versus spending the time to have to beat somebody down just to get to the point where they're at what it's worth.
I see.
So when people are reasonable and fair, that's really what I find the best for dealing with people, and just like kind of approaches everything too. Like, just people, I deal with people who are super laid back, and I also deal with people who kind of are like, they get like mad and emotional in deals, and it's just like, it's not my style, and I don't recommend it.
Yeah, no, that definitely is one thing I've noticed as well. It's like a lot of stuff can get lost in translation when you're like messaging back and forth on Instagram.
Yeah.
But like sometimes when you pull up the voice message, people are a lot more receptive because they can kind of hear your tone of voice and communicate faster.
Yeah, definitely.
You only deal on Instagram?
No, I actually don't do as much on Instagram as you would think. A lot of my stuff is through people that I know, or just locally. I do quite a bit on Instagram, and if I had the capacity to do more, I would. It's just very time consuming, and with all that's going on in the office and consignment, it's hard to dedicate as much time as I need to Instagram. But my experience on Instagram has been great. I've been on there for about 8 years now, and back when I first started, it was like, I was one of the first few people on Instagram for cards, and it's really cool what it's come to today. But in my experience, a lot of it is like guys just kind of wasting your time, and that's not making like a general thing to all of Instagram, because there's some really great people on there, and I've done some really great deals and made some great connections. But I feel like there's a lot of guys who just don't understand or don't get it, and they kind of clog up the DMs, or you post like a super high end card, and they're lowballing, or they don't understand the value of it, or something like that. So that's kind of something that I find is a drawback on Instagram.
Yeah.
Just the time of dealing with a lot of that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely something I experience as well. I think it's a
Yeah.
lot better if you can like meet people at shows and kind of like if you know them in person and like they message you through Instagram. But if it's like someone completely out of nowhere, that might be a little bit difficult.
Yeah. I mean, almost like I said earlier, everybody I deal with on Instagram is somebody that I've either met at a show or know personally, or have just done enough deals with them, or have friends who have done deals with them. I'd love to make more connections and such on Instagram. It's just, there's been some bad apples that have made it really difficult, and have kind of given me that, given me some caution when approaching new people on Instagram.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I think taking a step back, what is your general like show strategy? Like you usually go for the full time? Is there like certain days where you focus on like one activity more than the other? Can you maybe walk us a little bit through that?
So whenever I go to shows, I'm setting up. So I can't remember the last time I went to a show and just walked around, other than some small local shows just to go and buy some stuff. But yeah, my strategy is usually stay all 3 days. Sometimes I'll leave early on a Sunday, or occasionally skip a Sunday if the show is like really, really dead, or really bad. But recently, shows have been pretty good. Um, but yeah, the strategy is really just kind of bring everything I bring is stuff I'm willing to move and wheel and deal on, and therefore, I'm kind of, I don't know if motivate is the word, but therefore I don't really bring anything to shows that I like get a lot of interest in, and I tell everybody I don't want to move it.
Right.
So I think by having that mindset to where everything you have with you is stuff you're willing to wheel and deal on, I think that really is a good strategy, because then like, anything's up for grabs. So it means you can make more trades and more deals.
Yeah, I think one benefit of being at shows, it's like a lot faster. to communicate and like hand over the cards. You don't need to wait for like 2 or 3 days to ship. You don't need to wait for
Yeah.
wires to clear.
Yeah, and
Communication
just
is a lot
seeing
faster.
the cards or going through somebody's box versus looking at 20 group pictures of 10 cards, like 10 cards each picture. It's just easy to miss stuff. But if you have it in your hand and you could see it right there, it's just so much easier. And then yeah, like no shipping, you don't have to worry about any of that or getting lost in the mail or never getting it. Um, and it's really interesting too because a lot of people I've dealt with on Instagram who I haven't met before, I'll meet them in person and it's like they're completely different than what I would
Yeah,
have expected. Or like there's been plenty of people on Instagram who I could just never get something done with or we just can never see eye to eye, and then we'll do one deal at a show and it's like the easiest deal we've ever done. And then
exactly.
from
Yeah,
there it like opens up that door to now we can deal a lot online because we know that it's possible and we kind of know how each other operates. So I think shows are great for that stuff.
I think it's also like a trust thing, right? Like sometimes if you're sending like a very very high end card through the mail, I think for people who deal with you, like they're probably open to sending first, but like a lot of time, I'm assuming like trust is still an issue. Um,
Yeah.
once you meet someone in real life, that becomes a lot easier. You can kind of like pin a face to the Instagram handle. So
Yeah.
I think both parties are more open to willing to work things out.
Yeah.
Um, what is do you do a lot of stuff at trade nights at shows?
I don't anymore. A few years ago, I used to go all the time. I used to go to different shops, trade nights and shows, trade nights, and I would do great, do a lot of deals, meet a lot of people. But kind of where I'm at is like the show, being a vendor at the show is so exhausting, and I get so much done during the day that like after standing up for 10 hours, like my my motivation to go do a trade night for another few hours is just low because I'm so exhausted. But back when I was a little younger, I mean, I would eat those things up.
Yeah, I think for me like the most my favorite part of like shows is the trade nights, but like yeah, sometimes they go until like 2 or 3 a.m.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pretty
I've
insane.
kind of wanted to give it a try again, but like the Dallas show, I know they have really good trade nights. But like I said earlier, it's just like after standing up for 10 hours of nonstop wheeling and dealing, the energy levels are pretty low.
Yeah, especially yeah, a lot of traveling, especially if you fly in that same day, right? It's always gonna be a little bit
Yeah,
rough.
yeah, that too.
Yeah. What's the biggest deal that you've ever gotten done, either through the mail or in person at a show?
Um, I purchased the LeBron Exquisite True RPA, and that was not in person. So that I guess you could call it through the mail in a sense, but that was probably that was my largest deal. But I've done plenty of like really large bulk trades of a few 100,000, and it's some really exciting stuff where you're getting like huge quantity for huge quantity, or I'm trading one card into a lot of quantity, or I'm trading a lot of quantity into one monster card. So I do a lot of deals like that, and there's just so many like in that range that it's hard to say which one is the biggest other than the LeBron Exquisite. Um,
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
that's a huge card.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, I actually saw you in the Dallas show. Like I said hi, we're like walking to the lobby, and like a second later, I like checked my phone, and my friend was like, "Oh, you heard that LeBron RPA it bumped?" I was like, "Wow, I was literally
yeah,
just talking to him like 2 seconds ago." That was funny.
yeah. It was in my pocket that whole show.
Oh wow.
I only showed a few people. I don't want to make it too well known that I was walking around with that in my pocket because I don't usually bring like the really big stuff to shows. But being in Dallas and taking it to Beckett, not having to ship it, it's kind of like one of my only opportunities I had to try it, and luckily it bumped. I mean, I knew the surface was a lot cleaner than it looked or than the grade said, but I got lucky, and yeah, it's a pretty good bump.
Yeah, pretty solid. Uh, was there a reason why you didn't crack it?
Yeah, just with all this stuff that goes on with cards being altered or anything like that, I didn't want to risk it. The card could have got a 7 if I cracked it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
that is a factor.
plus there's just like there's so many there's so many pictures and so much out there of that card in that grade that if I cracked it and say Becky gave it a 9, then it would just be a lot of concern, like, how this was an 8 and now it's a 9. So I'd rather kind of keep things super clean and just have them review it in the case. If it bumped, it bumped. If it didn't, I'd try it a couple times versus just cracking it and taking on a lot of risk.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. For a card like that, the provenance is a lot more well documented.
Yeah.
Like there's like those RPA trackers, right? So it's better to keep the reputation of that card clean versus up in the air. No, that's super interesting. So you'll be in Dallas, right?
I will, yes.
Any plans for that show?
Just kind of same method. Just bring a lot of stuff and see what happens. Make some good trades, and I never go into shows with like a strategy because every time I used to do that, when I would want to go to sell a lot, I'd end up buying way more. If I want to go to buy a lot, I wouldn't be able to buy anything. So I just kind of see where it takes me, and I'm open for whatever.
I see. Do you like try to line up deals beforehand when it comes
Yeah,
to going to shows?
I always like to. I actually have a couple deals lined up for Dallas. To me, it kind of is like it's kind of like a good base to where if the show isn't too good, at least you did those deals, and those deals alone could be worth the whole show. Like if those were the only deals you did, so it's kind of like a nice guarantee.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to like going to being on the actual show floor, like wheeling dealing, like say like every time you go to Dallas, like is there anything else you do? Either that's like in cards or like without outside of cards.
At the shows.
Yeah. Like do you sub? Do you are there like certain people that you want to meet? Like what else do you do at shows apart from wheeling and dealing?
Yeah, I mean it's really just wheeling and dealing because it unfortunately consumes almost all my time. Um, but I like to kind of go to different sporting events in the different towns. Like I'm going to the Mavericks game on Sunday, which will be a nice change of pace from going to Celtics game. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, I just go to shows and networking, meeting people, wheeling and dealing, and just pretty simple.
Yeah, Mavs games in Dallas are always fun. I remember last time I went there, my ticket was something like $10. It was super cheap. My Uber there was like $80 one way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, it's super. The tickets are super expensive for this playoff game, but I'm
yeah,
sure it'll be worth it.
yeah, it'll be cool. Um, cool. Just taking a step back, a couple of our listeners are interested in some questions. Um,
Okay.
what are your thoughts on MetaZoo cards? Since you recently got a box, I was actually unaware of this, but apparently you got a box.
Yeah, I probably a couple months ago I bought a handful of boxes. Um, I've never been too big into the gaming cards and honestly don't know a whole lot about them, but had a couple friends who were into the MetaZoo and kind of learned about how many of the boxes were made. It was the Cryptid Nation Kickstarter boxes, and I believe there was only like 500 or 700 of them. So I just kind of applied that to my card knowledge and gave it a shot. And they are a little bit less than what I paid for them, but long term, who knows what can happen. So the supply and demand on those is definitely low. And you look at like first edition Pokemon boxes, those were not rare at all back in I believe 99 or around that time. So you got a product like this where there's only 500 or 700 boxes, and a lot of them have been ripped. In the future, they can be really, really strong.
Yeah, it could be one of those things where it's like, today they might not be really big, but 10 years down the road, it might be a lot bigger.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you ever deal with like other stuff that's like not cards? Like, do you touch like memorabilia, video games, any of that?
Very rarely. I mean, the occasional memorabilia, we get a decent amount of like signed jerseys and baseballs and photos for consignment, but I've never really dealt with anything other than cards. Definitely not any like video games or comics or coins or other collectibles. I've just kind of took the approach of like get all the focus on cards and just really like make that what I'm really, really good at versus being pretty good at multiple things.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I feel like, I've been doing this for a while, and like every day there's like something new that I learned that I didn't know the day before, right?
Yeah.
So I think it definitely makes sense to be an expert rather than
Yeah.
someone who knows a little bit of everything, who gets burned here and there because they miss out on key parts of a decision.
Yeah, definitely.
Another question that people had was, with the current market and the state of stocks, crypto, how do you see that affecting the industry as a whole, whether that's in your business or just generally for certain segments of the market?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of it is very tied together. When crypto was crazy, cards were crazy. I think a lot of it, like a lot of the crypto money, was put into cards and card money into crypto, vice versa. Um, it does all tie together, and I think if a market's down, like the stock market's down or crypto's down, it definitely impacts cards. Just really depends on which cards. I feel like a lot of the like high pop base stuff and a lot of the entry level stuff kind of got hit the hardest. But at the end of the day, you look at like Jordan, high end Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, Brady stuff, and feel like the demand will always be there no matter what state the market is in or the economy is in. Um, but yeah, to answer the question simply, it's like it is all tied together, and if the economy is down, the card market is going to be down, and you just kind of have to look at those blue chip items that are scarce or have low supply, and just kind of hold on to them, and they will come around.
Does that affect your willingness to trade for certain items, like the ones that are higher risk, or are you kind of
Yeah,
operating in like very much the
definitely.
same way?
Yeah, I mean, a few months ago or a year ago, I'd literally take anything and I'd trade like a $20,000 card into a bunch of base slabs because I know that they're super liquid and they would fly online. But now I do have a little more caution, unless it just makes such good sense to take that item. Um, but yeah, there's definitely some things that are scary that each sale goes down when you already thought it was cheap, and next thing you know, it's half of what you got it for.
Yeah, I saw a few LeBron autos. I remember the other day I saw uh, a Signs of a Legend LeBron True Gem. I think it did like 10 and a half. I was like, I've never seen that card this low.
Yeah,
It's a
that
crazy,
card
crazy
was
low
like
card.
almost 20 grand, and even that I thought that was like a pretty safe value. I owned one recently.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see how things go from here. Only time will really tell.
Yeah,
But yeah, this concludes the end of this episode. Really appreciate you coming on today, Mike. You can
yeah,
contact Mike on Instagram at MC Sports Cards, MC space Sports Cards, or check out his consignment business under the same name on eBay.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you having me. It was great. I look forward to coming on a future episode.